Allegiance.
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So how do we want to do this? Marcia, do you want to bring up the spreadsheet? I sent it to you, Sue. Did you get it, the spreadsheet and the justification?
Ken is gonna pull that up.
Okay, Ken's gonna pull it up, great. And then I think we should just run through it for the public. I know most of us are very, very familiar with it, but I don't think.
Steve, is it okay if Rosa and I give a little bit of an overview?
Absolutely.
We can certainly pull it up when Ken's ready, but Rosa, I'll let you say a few words and then I'll give a very brief overview as well, and then turn it over to Ken.
You're
Yeah,
okay
sure.
with Sue, right?
Yep.
Sue, you're okay? Okay.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Rosa.
Okay. So I'm gonna allow Dr. Brill and Ken to walk through, all the logistics of the plan, because honestly, I don't think anybody could really, anybody else could do it justice. But I do want to thank them for spending countless hours, nights, weekends, really with nonstop changes from the state's health and education departments. And as you may have seen last week, they presented not one, but 3 separate plans that will allow Brookfield students to get back to learning. They, along with the building principals, have carefully thought through the complex logistics of cohorts, class sizes, transitions, course offerings, new cleaning protocols, scheduling, drop-off, pickup, altered instructional practices, the social emotional impact on students, busing, faculty and staff safety, all while fielding questions from concerned parents with unique needs and requests, and with opinions that really span the absolute extremes of the spectrum. So the board unanimously approved the plan that is presented and granted Dr. Brill the authority to ensure the continuation of public education, provide for the health and safety of students and employees, and respond to direction from the state and local health officials, which everyone has likely heard has changed once again just this week. So at the moment, I just want everybody to understand that despite the fact that we're approaching August, the situation is still very much fluid. And I know that the recent announcement that claimed that districts have more flexibility in planning, everyone thought that we would immediately shift to our hybrid plan, as some districts have. However, the current statutes do not anticipate that remote learning programming counts towards the required number of days in the school year. So the CSDE absolutely must issue further guidance on this issue. Any declaration adopting a hybrid or remote option is unfortunately still premature until that happens. And I want everybody to know that it is in the best interest of our families, our district, our town, that we proceed carefully and only in accordance with the law. So we know what everybody's concerns are, we're listening, and we're staying open-minded. So with that, I'll just turn it over to Dr. Brill and Ken, and they can walk you through the cost implications and the details of the various plans.
Rosa, thank you very much. I appreciate the intro there. And there was just today an addendum sent about the flexibility from the CSDE, Connecticut State Department of Education, that just came through this afternoon, and I'll forward that to you, Rosa, because it does put in writing some of the flexibility that we have for the 100% in-person model that we're pursuing right now, and the hybrid as an option if we so choose. Of course, still looking at public health data, and obviously if we can ensure that we have the proper staff in place, that we can clean, we can socially distance, and that has to do with some of the budget requests for this evening. So that's there. But just as the 3 options that Rosa talked about, the state charged us as of June 29th with all districts in Connecticut with choosing 3 models, 3 scenarios to open the school year with. The first one is 100% return of all students, and making sure that we can provide all of the cohorting and other mitigation strategies such as social distancing and the proper cleaning and mask wearing and all of that. That is in our plan. It's a dense 41-page document, 11 font with a lot of references and a lot of protocols. Also in the plan is a hybrid model, which as a region we've adopted if we need to move to a hybrid model because of any kind of flare up or anything like that, or because we can't procure the necessary furniture or labor to ensure we can operate the schools, we would move to a hybrid model. The hybrid model is kind of an A-B hybrid where we'd have half the students come into school Monday and Tuesday while the other half learn remotely. And we'd have a day of distance learning for all on Wednesday where the custodial team would have an opportunity to really get in and do a deep cleaning. Then the next 2 days, Thursday and Friday, the B cohort would come in person, and the A cohort would stay home for the remote learning. So that's the hybrid model, and that sometimes is referred to as a 50% model. You'll see that in our conversation tonight. And then the final model is a more robust synchronous approach to distance learning, which is now being referred to as remote learning. Hi, Harry.
Hi, John. Sorry I'm late.
Those are the three models that we had to prepare for. We are continuing to prepare for. And I want to just reference something Rosa shared from the start of my comments to right now, which is the flexibility that we were not anticipating having. That was announced on Monday afternoon, and it was a surprise to all. The governor has further discussed that flexibility at a press conference this afternoon. And like I said, we also received from the Connecticut State Department of Education a memo outlining the flexibility and some of the expectation that goes along with that. So we're going to digest that and see. We're going to work with our principals, of course, Dr. Ruby, our assistant superintendent, Mr. Conklin, our technology director. There is just so much that goes into this. And at this time, actually, I'm having this meeting. Some of the district administrators and Mrs. Labriciano, the principal of Huckleberry, are holding our final parent kind of Q&A presentation that we're doing for each of the schools. We've done 3 of them so far this week for the high school center and Wisconsin, and tonight is the Huckleberry one. We're fielding questions and hopefully within the next week able to take the time to go through the hundreds of questions we've received and formulate a frequently asked questions document. And we also have information on our website, all things related to COVID. And so anybody can go and check there, and it links you to the state website as well. So those are just a lot of what's going on. For tonight specifically, the board and I are requesting of the Board of Selectmen that we prepare and approve, hopefully, and we'll certainly discuss in great detail, the materials we need to open in accordance and in alignment with the state guidelines and requirements to reopen school, and also the labor that is going to take to make that happen, whether it's monitors for lunch or for isolation rooms, or for the proper supervision, or for labor for custodial help to ensure that we can meet the cleaning standards. There's a lot here, and it's going to cost a lot to reopen school. And I know there's contingencies built in on the town side, and we've been collaborating the entire summer. So anyway, I think I've said enough. I'll turn it over to Ken, maybe to share his screen. And Steve, would it be better to share the spreadsheet and just have Ken start walking through that? And
I think so, don't you think?
Okay.
Yeah, that's simpler.
I wanted to ask you.
Because the Word document is backup for the justifications with a spreadsheet.
Okay.
So if we just walk through it and make comments as you go through.
Sounds
if you
good.
want,
And
for
you'll see
edification.
thank you, Steve. And you'll see on Ken's spreadsheet, and I'm going to stop talking so Ken can talk. From left to right, it starts, we list the items by school that we need. And from left to right, for a full 100% reopening to an 80% opening scenario, and I'll explain that in just a second, to the hybrid all the way to remote learning. The reason Mr. Dunn actually asked us to prepare the 80% next to the 100% is because while all the way we do need to be prepared for all the students to come back, at this time, 2 weeks ago, we put out a parent survey, and 80% of the responses shared that their child will be coming back to school, and about 20% would be not coming back and learning remotely. We have a follow-up survey prepared to go out as soon as this evening, but most likely tomorrow, to parents to actually determine is that 80, now that the plan has been published, is the 80% actually accurate? Will more parents want their children to come to school in the full 100% reopening model, or will less? And that's going to really determine how we reopen, because obviously the less students that are in school, that means there's more we have to educate remotely, and that's a technology issue, right? And the less that are actually physically in school, means that we can more readily socially distance, and that might give a little relief, not only for buses and things like that, but the actual classroom. And then one last piece in terms of the survey data, right now, 41% of the parents in the original survey said that they would not be availing their children of the transportation. So we're getting near kind of a half full bus regardless, and we will work with All-Star Transportation to adjust transportation so we could space the kids as best we can. Again, that question will be asked again with the updated parent survey that should be going out tomorrow. Okay, Ken, I'll stop talking, my friend.
Okay, can everybody see this okay? Or do I need to enlarge it?
That's good.
Okay,
I can see it. Can everybody else see it?
Yes, I'm fine.
Okay.
okay. So starting at the top, one of the things that is mandated by the state as part of the reopening plan is that we have a set aside what's called an isolation room, so that any student who has any of a long list of symptoms and goes to the nurse's office has to be put in this isolation room, which is separate from the nurse's office. So we need to staff these isolation rooms with a monitor to watch the children until the parents come and pick them up and take them home. So we're putting in for one monitor each school. $12 an hour is minimum wage, 6 3/4 hours, and this for the whole school year, which is 177 days. You'll notice when we go over to the hybrid model, since they wouldn't be working on Wednesdays, there would be 37 Wednesdays, so they'd be working 140 days for the year. So we've adjusted it for that. And I'll make a note that this was Marcia and Mr. Dunn's idea. The green columns show the budget for the first 90 days, which would be August, September, and October. So in the case of the monitors, they'd be working 37 days during that time period.
August, though?
No, well, we're going to be spending money in August. The works won't start until September. The labor starts in September.
So it's really September, October, November. No, if it's 90 days?
Well, we're considering the equipment and everything else we have to purchase, which will be before that. So the spending starts in August.
Okay, but not for a monitor because there's not going to be students there.
Correct.
So you're saying there's 37 days between September and October 31st that will be in school?
Correct.
Okay.
So in addition to those, the 3 of the schools have identified the need for additional lunch monitors because we at the Center, Wisconsin and Huckleberry, they will be having lunch in the classrooms. So keeping the kids split apart will require more folks to monitor it. Huckleberry already has 9 lunch monitors, so they won't need to add any extras. And the high school only has 1, so then they need to add 9. They're going to have the kids spread out in quite a few different locations for lunch.
Ken, if I could just interject, this has to do with requirement of social distancing and cohorting. So that's
Correct.
There's always a reason for all of these things. So I'll just say, if Ken doesn't say it, I'll just interject with a little piece.
Sure.
Because
So, but if
familiar
if
term-
I can ask a question? If the students are eating in their lunchroom, isn't there a monitor then required for each, in their classroom? Isn't there a monitor required for each classroom?
Yes.
That's what we have figured in here, but there's also, they're not all eating at the same time. So that's how the principals are able to make that happen.
Okay, thank you.
So the total for the lunch monitors alone is almost $135,000. And then for custodians / cleaning service, we have a program with a company called Hilliard who supplies our custodial supplies. And they have a program that produces basically a custodian checklist for every single one of our custodians. And it has every task they have to do, how long it takes, and everything like that. So we added all of the new cleaning tasks that we have to perform. We have to do an extra cleaning of the bathrooms every day. We have to do disinfecting of the bathrooms every day. We have to disinfect all of the high touch points, which is all knobs, door handles, faucets, in the classrooms too. And putting it into this program identified the need for an additional 6.1 FTE of cleaning folks. So we still have to have a conversation with the union as to, whether it makes sense to get a cleaning service in, or I personally don't think it makes sense to hire people for a temporary problem that we would have to, lay off in a short period of time when this is over.
Right.
So that's a very hefty expense to do all that cleaning over and above what we already do.
And this is Harry. I have a
Yeah, Harry.
question concerning the new hires that were, now these are new hires, is that correct?
There's a service.
Ken, let me jump in on that one. So Gary, it's really a twofold answer. And it's a great question. I'm actually waiting for the union head to get back from a vacation next week to have have another conversation, frankly. In the custodial contract is a very specific caveat in there that the board will not hire outside services. And so that's something we have to agree to, and hopefully they would understand the difficult challenge we're in, and we can work together and develop a memorandum of agreement, obviously for maybe just this school year. So that's something we're going to be entering into. I really shouldn't say any more about that, but that's the reality. With all of our unions, there's different caveats and things we're going to need to have conversations about. And our labor attorney is beginning that work now that the plan has been presented and the governor and commissioner have opined a little bit further. So that's if we wanted to get a service in, which we have an RFP prepared and ready to go. Mr. Gay has that all ready to go. But the issue with that is we have to get a memorandum of agreement, and the contract is very clear that you can't just bring in services. So we have to have that conversation. On the other hand, Harry, there is, do you think you could bring in 6 brand new people? With the economy being as strong as it was prior to COVID, it's been very difficult to find custodians to fill our vacancies when we've had them. So, I don't know that it's a new market out there perhaps, and we'd be able to find people, but in a very short turnaround time, this is something that's a difficult order for us. And to Ken's earlier point, even if it's a year, it's still a temporary issue. And I don't know that we want to bring people in to then likely lay them off. And there's just a lot that goes into the time it takes to hire. So we think the best bet would be to go with a service, but it's going to take some work between the board and the union.
Okay, well, if the 4 under the monitors, there's 4 FTE there. Under lunch, there are 19. How many of that 23 are going to be new people coming into our program?
All of them.
Wrong.
Okay, now if we get, the question I'm getting to is, if we get shut down and we go all virtual, worst case scenario, do these people now go on unemployment, or now are we paying unemployment to these people? Are they going to be compensated if we go down and they're not working?
They're at will unaffiliated. So Ken, I'll let you.
I think it depends on how long they work for us and how long they worked for their previous employer. Yeah, so whether we would have to pay, because we've had employees leave our employment and then a month or 2 later either leave or get terminated from their next employer, and the unemployment gets charged back to us, even when we protest it.
But I mean, if they are working and in December we get shut down and we say, we're going to have to lay you off.
Yeah.
I would assume we're going to have to pay unemployment to these people.
I think if it went all the way through December, we probably would.
Yeah.
Would a monitor work the same as how we have our substitute teachers now, where the insurance is going through the company that's actually hiring the substitutes, so that it's not our concern?
Go ahead, Ken.
No, these would be our employees.
These would be our employees part-time. We are doing a quick exploration if ESS, which is our outsourcing vendor for substitutes, but that would be an additional agreement with the ESS company to see if they can help us get those monitors. But we don't want to paint any rosy picture either. Yeah. We don't know that it's going to be easy to find 19 monitors. I mean, this is
the monitors. They will only be part-time in the fact that they're going to be full-time. If they're working 6 3/4 hours, they're working full-time. They may be temporary in their length of their stay, but they would be considered full-time employees. if they're working over a certain amount of hours a week, they're a full-time employee.
Yes.
True.
I'm just concerned with where we're going to be.
Yeah.
And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying, I just want to make sure people understand if we go down, we're not going to be getting the state coming in saying, well, we're going to pay these people. We're going to have to pay their unemployment.
And we could actually be in a situation, Harry, remember when we closed up back in March, one of the executive orders from the governor said that we had to continue paying
Right,
our
right,
people.
right,
So it wasn't even, they didn't get unemployment, they got their full pay,
right. Okay.
including the lunch monitors. So right below the custodians, I have a line for substitutes with question marks. I think it's something we need to talk about, but something that frankly would be impossible to quantify right now. We know for a fact that there will be some staff members and teachers who will, for medical reasons, be unable to come back to work for us. So they'll probably be collecting sick pay if that's the way that works with the law and the contract. We don't know how many of them yet. We are going to be doing a survey of our employees, asking them, or basically saying we expect you to come back unless you have, medical or legal reason why you cannot. And if that's the case, you have to let us know.
Is
Yeah,
that
let me
going
just
out
jump-
tomorrow as well?
we have a letter. It's a letter actually instead of a survey. Thank you, Ken, for bringing
Oh,
that
sorry.
up.
Yeah.
A letter will be going out from HR, letting all employees know that, at this point, we anticipate that they're coming back. If they have a legal or contractual concern, they're to contact HR.
Right.
So
Just so, Harry, Sue, if you're aware, Bethel, for their substitutes, has put $900,000 in
900,000.
900,000.
Right.
So I
I
don't,
would
we have
imagine.
no idea what, they don't even know, that it's a guess. They said, this is a guess.
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah, and I know that we are always happy to provide the details of the rationale of why we need things, and we have that certainly in our narrative that you've seen, Mr. Dunn. We just to Ken's earlier point, we don't know yet, and to your point about that other community, they don't know yet. So I find it hard to just pick a number and put it in there. So we put it as a placeholder. So it's something we need to be talking about.
John,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What's the usual amount on a regular year for substitutes? Can we plug that number in, at least as a starting point?
Well, the usual number of substitutes is already in our regular operating budget, but
Okay, so this is above and beyond.
this would be above and beyond of the
Thank you.
typically expected. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
What's going to happen, Sue, is there are people, as you're well aware, that have significant medical issues, comorbidity, live with somebody who is in a particularly precarious situation at home, all kinds of situations. And the legislation and executive orders that have come out under the CARES Act and other edicts really provide people with some opportunity. But they also provide people with a clear explanation that if you didn't have a pre-existing type condition, you can't all of a sudden have a new condition unless it's significantly documented in terms of, from a doctor or something. So we're going to do our best. And that's why it's important for us to hear from our employees. So, we can take a look at what their situations are in human resources and see. This could be a really big challenge for the district. It might not be. It all depends on what the response is. And so we're looking forward to getting that, again, working with our labor attorney to make sure we have the language correct and get that letter out as soon as possible.
When are you hoping to have the responses by, both for parents and for teachers?
Well, if the parent survey goes out, I think I'm going to put a deadline on it for 4 p.m. on Monday. So it gives people 4 days to fill it out. It's urgent that we get this information from parents, especially now that the plan has been released and we've had all the parent Q&A sessions. They're much more informed so they can make that better decision for themselves and their child and their family. Same thing with the staff. Now that they have had the opportunity to see the plan and hear more from the Commissioner of Education and from the governor and work with their different unions, they've had a chance to kind of understand where things are at. And I imagine pretty quickly they're going to know if they're able to come back or not, or if they have a question that they need to run by HR before they get an answer. So we're trying as quickly as we can. So
So hopefully mid-August.
Well, I'm hoping, mid next week we'll have a sense,
Okay.
because people
Okay,
will respond individually. And we'll have to contact people personally again and again if we don't get that. And, it's incumbent on employees to let us know their status. That's very important. You can't just not show up for work. And so people who have concerns need to go to HR.
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
and once we know how many of them are not going to be coming back, we could at least do a worst case scenario calculation if we know they're going to be out for the whole year. And, assuming we're going to have to put long-term substitutes in. The other wild card in this, Sue, is that if we are having trouble getting our teachers to come back,
Mhm.
many of which who are paid pretty well, how hard is it going to be to get substitutes to come in?
Oh,
Long-term
sure.
substitutes, they get paid by the substitute company $120 a day.
Sure. And
So-
at that point, is that when you say, oh, we have to go hybrid?
If we
Or remote.
Or remote.
Everything contributes to it's a synthesis of everything that is in our context. And so we have to adjust not only to the moving health data and working with Dr. Sullivan, we've got all the operational issues, including having the funding to have, we haven't even gotten to the actual materials yet. We've been talking about labor here, but we have to have the bodies, frankly, to staff and operate the school system. And then we have to have the materials that align with cohorting and social distancing and the like, so we could properly and safely and responsibly open up the schools.
Right. And
All-
yeah,
all
the timing of all this, be able to get plexiglass in, or, I think the meeting the other night said 542 desks, at the 100% full reopening.
That's coming up, so you'll see it. It's coming. And
Yeah.
That's next.
John, this is Sarah. Ken, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I have just
No,
one
it's fine,
quick question. Correct me if I'm wrong. Now, we instituted I think a new substitute service this year. How will that fit in? How will that fit into what
They're-
we're looking at?
they're actively recruiting for substitute teachers right now. And having that service gives us a much wider net to recruit substitutes. Every district in Connecticut, and frankly, all the districts in the nation are in the same situation. So this is the one thing, and I'm glad we're actually talking about it and you're asking the question, because it's really the labor area has been an area that you don't hear much discussion about, in the governor's press conferences and things. This is probably, obtaining materials like desks and desk shields is a very concrete action. You have the funds, you place the order. If it comes in on time, you're ready for the start of school, right? It's pretty straightforward, pretty linear. When we're dealing with human beings and our valued employees, and also new positions that we need to fill to adhere to all of these requirements to open safely, it is a much more ambiguous and gray situation, as you can tell from our responses and your questions. So this is an area of significant concern. I'll be very honest with you. What we don't know, we don't know yet.
Right. My concern, one of my concerns with the short-term subs is, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's going to be what, 20, 30% more than normal subs?
Yeah.
Aren't the short-term subs considerably more money to?
You mean like a long-term sub?
Long-term sub is more money.
Who's
Yeah,
out?
yeah.
Especially if, right now they haven't relaxed the certification requirements. So there's a 40-day rule and you have to be a certified teacher. There's a lot that goes into it. And again, that's difficult enough to find during a non-pandemic time. In this situation.
Yeah.
And
it's-
John, how many of our substitutes are parents that will not be available anyway, because they might very well be home teaching their own children?
Yeah,
or
I
home with
couldn't tell you that off the top of my head, Susan. I couldn't. And now with ESS, they're employees of ESS, so it'd probably be harder for me to know that
Yeah.
change over the last year that's occurred. I just couldn't answer that right now.
Yeah, I think it just makes it even harder to find people.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
No, thank you. So next is student desks. And the reason we need desks is to maintain proper distancing in the classrooms. Many of our classrooms, especially at center school, almost all of the classrooms have tables where they sit 4 students around the table. And depending on the size of the table, Mary Rose can get sometimes 1 and sometimes 2 at a table. So she figured out how many students she could squeeze in to the school, into all the classrooms at the tables, and then deducted that from the total enrollment, and calculated that she needed 153 desks. And similar exercise was done at Huckleberry and at the high school.
And can I ask a question about the desks? I know Jen Layden asked the other night if it was possible to rent them. Now, I'm sure everyone would be thinking the same thought, but is that something that we did look into?
Yes, Jerry did look into that, and the answer he got was no.
Okay.
Also,
thought
Sue,
it was-
when we're finished with these desks, let's say we get a vaccine in January, we store them and they can be used to replace desks across the school district.
Right, that's
They're
what I
not
was,
going to get thrown away.
No,
Right.
and to be very honest with you, I've talked with both Mr. Belanda, the high school principal, and Mr. Renda, the middle school principal, and you'll see that Wisconsin has mostly desks at the school, so they're able to move the big furniture out and then spread out the desks and adhere to social distancing rules and operate classes. So that's why you see they're not asking for desks at Wisconsin, whereas the other schools are. And both Mr. Renda and Mr. Belanda said that once the desks that are not only the ones bought for the high school, but the ones for the elementary schools, once those are not necessarily needed any longer, and we can go back to more tables and centers in the way we want to educate our students, where they're actually interacting and working together and not in isolation. Mr. Renda, especially, Mr. Belanda said, "Oh, I can repurpose all these desks. I've got a lot of old desks that need to be replaced."
Mhm.
And Mr. Renda said, he in fact has been asking for years to start his cycle of one classroom a year. And because of, working to make sure we achieve our budgets, that's an area we always take off the budget. So he said, there will be no problem replacing desks, and the same thing with Mr. Belanda. So we have a need anyway, so nothing will go to waste. So I want to assure you.
yeah, that was my question as to, is this going to help any of the budget where we've had desks, requested in the past, but we've taken them off because we.
Yes, Susan, and we also built into this, Mary Rose built in, there was in the budget one classroom with new furniture. And so that's accounted for in this ask here, just so you know, we looked into that.
Great. All right. So that won't be a total loss. Okay.
No.
No, it won't be. They will be used.
So
John,
then,
Ken, I'm sorry, one more. Didn't we have in our budget, didn't we have desks in our budget, or did that get taken out?
no,
Right, the
Yeah,
one
Dr.
class,
Brill just said
For
that.
for next year's budget, for the 21 budget.
one classroom in center school.
I'm sorry, John, what was that?
One classroom in center school.
Okay,
We're adding a section, and that's accounted for here in the. So
Okay.
we're not double dipping is the.
Right, in other words, it's not in this number.
okay, good.
We need 153 plus the 24 she budgeted.
Yep.
So the next category is desk shields. And when you look at the narrative document, I actually inserted a picture of what they look like in there. I had originally had an estimate of $80, and Jerry actually found some for $62 that we
Oh,
should be
good.
able to get before September 8th. So that
Oh,
brought,
I was going to say available. Okay. Mhm.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, and we should say that
down
right now,
significantly.
Ken talked to Jerry today. Ken, can you just share between the desks and the shields in terms of availability from what Jerry reported today, at least?
As of now, we can get them before September 8th,
Which is the first day of school.
but that is subject to change.
Yep.
Could change next week, could change tomorrow. So some of these numbers that are on here might end up changing based on availability of product.
But we
So
feel
yes.
this is these are good, solid numbers on which to base the budget.
Yeah, these are good numbers, yeah. I don't have solid numbers for the next three categories. Fortunately, they are smaller. And Jerry and I went back and forth with a lot of emails today, and I'm gonna go in the office tomorrow morning, and we're gonna speak and try to nail these things down. I think I might be a little bit low on the teacher shields and the office shields, and probably pretty solid on the partitions. But the idea is to give the teachers a shield. They have to maintain at least 6 feet distance, and they can teach without their mask on if they have a shield between them and the class, and they're 6 feet away.
And also 6 feet away.
So the principals were very desirous of allowing them to do that and John, as a former teacher, could probably explain what the advantages of teaching without the mask at times.
Sure.
I don't think you need to be a teacher to know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are these going to be installed by our custodians, or are they have to be professionally installed?
They will be freestanding.
Oh, okay.
Everything is portable, Harry.
Yeah.
Good.
Easily moved.
Good. Thank you.
Kind of trifold, so it can stand on its own or sit on a desk.
Thank you.
So you're saying trifold. Will they also fold down, assuming that once we don't need them, we can store them somewhere without great expense?
Yeah, they would fold flat. So like a trifold science experiment display project, kind of that design. So
Yeah.
they can fold. And there's a picture in the narrative document if you get a chance to look at that later on, so you can see. And they're clear as well, so you can see.
Hoping we never need them again, but you never know.
Amen.
It's going to be a difficult year ahead of us.
Yeah. So the principals also identified office areas where they would want desk shields for their employees who have contact with other people. And this would include school psychologists and speech and language pathologists and folks like that, counselors, guidance counselors who have people coming in and out of their offices all the time. And then after that is partitions, mostly for the isolation rooms and the nurses' offices where they can have some physical separation between the kids, because some of the nurses' offices are not that large. And if you have multiple students in there, you want to have that little extra layer of protection, especially since, obviously these children are sick, whether it's with COVID or something else. You want to keep them separated.
And clear shower curtains won't work?
Nope. Fire marshal doesn't allow them.
Oh, that fire marshal.
Yeah, we have to be very careful with fire rating, of course, on everything we
Yeah.
purchase.
Yeah, so Sue, we're replacing all of the shower curtains in town hall with
Yeah.
Lexan because it does have the NSF code 50 whatever designation. It's going to cost us almost $13,000.
So the next category is gloves for students and then gloves for staff. And it looks like a lot. But what it is one pair of gloves per student and per teacher per week. And we don't know exactly how frequently we will be using them. We know that there are many instances, or it should say for example, certain science modules in our new science program where we have manipulatives that get handled by the teacher and multiple students during any given lesson. And so they might need them every day for a week and then might not need them again for 3 or 4 weeks. And we've put, if you notice in the first part of the budget, we put in to purchase just a third of the quantity that we think we're going to need. And then we can watch and see how it goes and reorder when we need it and determine if we're using them at a higher rate or a lower rate.
Good idea.
The next category is UV sanitizers. These will be used to sanitize things that can't be or are impractical to disinfect with our products. For example, we've put in to get one for each technology department at the schools, because when children bring their Chromebook in that's not working, or their other whatever device that's not working that we need to look at, we can't be spraying disinfectant on it. We don't want liquids to come in contact with it, so we can use the UV sanitizer for that. The
Is that
elementary
like a wand? Is that
What's
a
that?
wand, or is that a wand, or is that something like a case that it goes into with the UV light?
It's a case that it goes into, and I put a picture in the document.
Okay, thank you.
So the elementary schools in particular have a lot of small things that they would want to. The preschool has toys and things like that end up getting one child to use it, then they'll want to sanitize it and give it to another one. So there's a total of 18 of those being requested across the district. Webcams for desktops. This is to provide office staff with the opportunity to participate in video conferences. If we come back in this model, when the principals hold staff meetings, they won't be able to be gathered together in a large group, so people will be working from their computers and participating. And those folks with desktop computers don't have cameras.
Gotcha.
and all the
As a reminder, one of the requirements with cohorting and the ability to contact trace is to limit as much contact as we can. And so you can imagine with filling schools with, if 100% of the students came back, 500 at Huckleberry, 300 and change at Center, over 800 at the middle school, over 900 at the high school, plus staff. The notion, it's important for people who might be viewing this, the notion that we're going to have in-person professional development or in-person faculty meetings would go against that, because we're trying to separate teachers with one cohort, only specialists coming in contact in limited ways with that particular cohort for certain amounts of time. So then we don't want the teachers all congregating after that and then going back with the students. So that's something we need to have that virtual. We also need it for staff that might not have laptops. If they're going to be working from their desktop and need to be in a Zoom meeting, not only for faculty meeting, but a conversation with parents or whatever other pieces. So just so people know that. And it's detailed in the narrative document, specifically who with those cams.
Thank you.
So the next category is a small one. It's special supplies kits for center school, where the principal is going to be putting together kits for the children to use for their art and other special classes, so they don't have to share anything. The next category is carts for specials teachers and lunch delivery. So again, to keep the cohorts and to cut down on students passing in the halls, we're going to have the specials teachers put their belongings on a cart and push into the classrooms. And Dr. Bill, you could probably explain even better how they're going to do the rotations.
Sure. So specialists will rotate into a cohort classroom for the most part, rather than having music one day, art the next day, phys ed the next day. We're going to block those sets of classrooms with the specialists. So a student in a few classrooms might have music for 6 weeks, and then another 6 weeks phys ed, and another 6 weeks art, to help with the cohorting and to limit the contact. That's the plan right now, K through 8. And
since lunch is going to be served and eaten in the classrooms, we're still going to allow students to order lunch from the cafeteria. And obviously the kids on free and reduced lunch would get it also. And we need carts to allow for the monitors to deliver the lunches to the rooms.
So Ken,
special teachers.
Each one of these classrooms prior to lunch will have a teacher in it, correct?
Correct.
So is the teacher staying in there for lunch as well?
No.
Okay.
No, that's why we have to have a monitor. They have to have a duty-free lunch.
And why would the teacher not stay in it?
Because then they'd be responsible for the kids.
Pardon me?
Contract says they have a duty-free lunch.
Oh, okay. I got you. Okay. Thank you. Yep.
And I did include a picture of the cart that we identified in the, although the one in the picture is chrome. The pricing I got was for the black one, which is lower, but it's the same thing. Individual whiteboards for students, and they come in packs of 30. And this is so that the students can do the work on the whiteboard, and they can show it to the teacher without the teacher having to get close to look at what they're doing. And the reason that center school is not on this list under this category is because they already have them in stock. And then
that's electronic. Is that electronic that then goes up to the whiteboard? No. On the no.
And I put a picture of these in the document also. They're little whiteboards with dry erase marker. Each package comes with 30 whiteboards, 30 markers, and 30 erasers.
Okay. So when Huckleberry is asking for 18, it's really one for each student per class.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Roughly, yeah. And then next is pointers. Whereas Center School and Huckleberry have asked for pointers so that the teachers again can go to student work and point out without having to get too close. And that's a grand total of $456. And then we also put in for 4 storage containers. That would be one at each school, to store some combination of whether we're removing tables or bookcases, because as you can imagine, when we went through the schools several weeks ago to do some mock-up classrooms and see how many desks we could fit at 6 feet and lesser spaces, there's a lot of things in the classroom that get in the way of us spacing out the students properly. Bookcases and other things, rugs are going to be taken out. So a lot of things are going to be put into storage for at least the part of the year that we have to do the social distancing.
Yeah, so if I can jump in here, Glenn Rooney had asked me if instead of getting storage cabinets, could we rent space to store stuff? I said, sure, we'll look at it. The cheapest space we found so far that would meet our needs is climate controlled, and it's $2,795 a month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, everything is going, the cheapest you can find unheated is about $2,000 a month. So the storage containers seem to be a much less expensive option.
Mhm.
And what I would like to do is discuss perhaps buying them rather than renting them, because our police, fire, and EMS and Parks and Rec need storage for materials. I mean, we filled the garage at the Grimes property and people have stuff in closets in their offices. So it might be something to do, but that would be separate from this. We can decide that separately.
Are these storage containers like the Rat Pack kind of things that you see?
The
that
sea
people rent?
container that you see that pop on the back of semis are 50 feet long, 42 feet
gotcha.
long and 10 feet.
Yeah,
These
high.
are
they're
40.
big.
These are
Yeah.
40 feet.
Yeah, 40 feet.
Okay.
They're about 500 square feet each.
Wow. Okay.
And we're renting 4 of these for a year? Oh, for 1,000 each, okay.
Right. One each school.
Yeah.
Is one of the,
Yeah.
it's a recommendation to make social distancing possible in the classroom is to get rid of the big furniture. And then obviously the other part of that is the single desks. So you can spread the students out and then put the shield on the desk. And now you've got your little mini office space that the students can put in.
Yeah, okay.
Then down at the bottom here, I've got a budget cash flow again, where it's broken out by quarter, August through October, which is the largest one, of course. So we've got the labor, just as we showed in the green column there. The cleaning service the same, and then
The purchase. Yeah.
all the furniture and equipment, plus 1/3 of the gloves, plus 3 months worth of the storage containers.
Mhm.
And then in November through January, I put in the second third of the gloves and the storage container. Similarly in the next quarter, and last quarter is just the storage container and all the labor.
So can I ask you a question?
Sure.
The other night, the quote was 728,000. What came off?
Well, the most significant change was the student desk shields, because I had $80 in there, and like I said,
Okay.
today Jerry Gay showed me a real nice one from
Oh, yeah. And that's a huge number of shields.
It's a huge
Yeah,
difference.
good.
And also the 37 days on the hybrid, right? For the employees that wouldn't work, but you're right.
Yeah, that changed also, yes.
changed also, yeah.
So if you want to walk through the columns, the 80% attendance, which is if we make the assumption that we're only going to have 80% of the kids there, the labor doesn't change because you still have the same number of classrooms, same number of rooms needing to be monitored for lunch, same amount of cleaning has to be done.
Mhm.
The desks, you would be able to get away with fewer desks. You would be able to get away with fewer desk shields. The office shields, teacher shields would not change because you still have the same number of those folks. The number of gloves would change a little bit.
Can we not place our order until we hear back from the parents in a week or so?
Well, timing wise, it's a great question. Again, my tech director is helping run the Huckleberry Parent Q&A right now. So he was working very, very hard to get the survey out for this evening. He may be getting it out tomorrow, like I said. If we can get the majority of parents to respond, and we really need everyone to respond, so we know what their intention is. That's the whole point. All 2,700 children, is that if by Monday we can have that, and I understand, I don't know if it's been formally scheduled, that it's possible that the Board of Finance might schedule a special meeting for Monday. we'd love to have as close to a solid percentage, because that's an important piece to the decision making, and obviously timing for ordering desks and shields for the start of school is a big issue. So we understand, and so while timing is of the essence, we don't want to over purchase, and so I think that's why some of the, in working with Marcia and Steve over the last couple of weeks, is, you know, can we buy for, you know, the first 90 days rather than the whole year, and that kind of a thing, to mitigate.
Of course, desks
my-
and shields,
sorry.
not, but
I'm sorry,
desk
Sue,
and
did you say that again?
shield. Desk and shields aren't going to matter if it's, you know, we have to either order them or we don't.
Yes,
We have to know the number of students.
right. You know, in
So if it's 90 days, it doesn't matter. You still have to have them for 90 days.
right. In my conversations with the parents that I've spoken to, the amount that have told me they're keeping their kids home is more than 20%. Now, it's not scientific. I'm just talking to people in town.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
there are a significant portion of people who are going to want to distance learn their children.
Yeah.
I think it's higher than 20%.
It may very well be, Steve. You know, I just was on the phone with Dr. Sullivan tonight, and you know, there's a few new cases in July that have been reported, and so I can't quote transmission numbers, but I think it's higher than what we were talking about just the last few nights, but not in a real negative way, meaning a bad way, because over time things have been coming down, and Connecticut's in very good shape as well. But we see flare-ups in New Jersey. I think New Hampshire's having a flare-up, and clearly we all know we're right in between. And a major part of why mitigation efforts have worked is, number one, we've been implementing them in Connecticut, masks, cohorts, so significant social distancing. The governor himself not moving to phase 3 with restaurants and bars and things like that. So that's been a plus for us, but schools have been closed the entire time too. And talk about a concentration of humanity, it's in your schools. So that is a real concern that parents have, and I understand it. I have, you know, I've shared.
I think
I have
there's
a high school and I have one going to college, so I understand. I get it.
Oh my
I think
goodness.
there's a very good chance that we go back to school and there'll be some families or children who got exposed unknowingly, and they're going to bring it in the schools. And I could easily see us shutting the schools down. But having said that, we still have to prepare to be open. And my feeling is on this is I think that at least 20%, and obviously, John, we're making guesses here. We really are. But I would like to fund the full amount at 80%, because we know some parents are not going to send their kids to school. We know that.
Right. Right. And we know that from the last survey. So I can't imagine the survey is going to get any better.
I don't think so. I agree with you. I agree with you. So I
mean,
think we should
people-
fund at the 80% level for the first 90 days.
And with the caveat that if we get the, you know, obviously this is a recommendation we're making to the Board of Finance, but once we get the results back, if it should be different from 80%, it goes to 90, we're going to have to say we're willing to fund it for, you know, further.
Oh, yes, we don't have a choice. I don't think we have
No,
a
we
choice.
don't have a choice.
No,
we
if
don't.
90% say they're coming back, okay, we're going to have to order more.
Right. We have to make our best educated guess. And this is what we're dealing with right now. And I
Yeah.
think the fact that we've done a survey, thank you, John, for doing that early to really get a feel for it, is the 80-20 rule. And I think you're very smart, you and Marcia, to have said, let's at least look at the numbers for 80% attendance.
Yeah. So we do, Harry, do you have any more comments?
Well, what is the bottom line for the 80%? I can't see that.
I can tell you that right now. It's a total of
647,000.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we would be
50,000 different.
Here's my problem with the full 100% and the 80%. The 80%, it's like adding almost 2% to the budget, to the school budget. 2% would be about 800,000. This is 600 and change. But the caveat that I'm concerned about is in 30 days, we could have these people, we may be closed down. And now we're paying the unemployment for the others. I just think it's a huge burden on the taxpayer. And I am not lessening the value of trying to get the best education. I think it's going to be considerably more than 20% anyways, like you say, Steve. So I'm having a hard time getting my arms around the 80% or the 100%. I'll be honest with you. I think it's going to be very difficult, very, very difficult.
So Harry,
There's so many moving parts, and there's no other way to do it. I understand. I mean, I completely, I know how much work is going into this. I can't even imagine really the total of hours. I just don't know how it's going to work.
well,
And that's why I'm leaning towards the hybrid. So,
well, say,
Yeah.
unless the town calls it now and says, nope, we're going to go with the hybrid.
But I don't think we legally,
I don't think the Board of Ed is ready to do that, are they?
I don't think they're legally allowed to do that, John.
Well, here's the thing.
They are.
Number one, let's start with this. The state has pushed us via a very firm memorandum just last week before they announced the flexibility that we were to provide a plan for all three scenarios, including the 100%. And the 100% was the goal scenario. We were supposed to work toward that, which is obviously the most difficult to plan for, as you all can see. The planning is in the logistics as well as the costs. This past Monday press conference where flexibility was announced really got people thinking, is there a way to perhaps, depending on the survey results that Sue was just referencing again,
performance without more. Like you can have performance.
I don't know what that is.
That was me. Sorry.
The survey results and I lost my train of thought. I apologize. Give me a second here. Oh,
sorry.
The survey results. And
Flexibility, actually, while perhaps from the governor or the commissioner's view is what individual communities desire, when it doesn't come with any guidance and it's not in writing and it's just said at a press conference, sure, you're going to have flexibility. It throws everybody into a loop because the public's saying, oh, okay, superintendent, okay, Rosa, board chair, you got flexibility, go do whatever you want. The reality is until I have guidance from the state, I'm obligated to provide right now in-person learning for 177 school days. They waived the 180, so we have 177 right now. We've set that up.
Yep. We got nothing in writing, right?
Well, now there's flexibility memorandum came out today that I referenced earlier. So it's given us some guidance there. But we're waiting, supposedly, the Governor Lamont will be putting out an executive order on a waiver on in-person for 177 days. Attendance is enormous. We are responsible for attendance of our students, for not only district compliance, but for student attendance. And so we can't just willy-nilly make moves. We are sailing a battleship that takes time to turn around and time to turn and maneuver. It's not something where you could just pivot on a dime. And I don't ever want to overpromise and give people the expectation that it's that easy. And so until we have a chance to digest and maybe even seek counsel on what the governor has put forward, have conversations with other superintendents in the region, have further conversation with my administrative team, look through the survey results and the employee response to the letter that we talked about today, putting all that in context. Also talking continuously with the Board of Selectmen, and I would look forward to the Board of Finance next week, and Jerry in terms of purchasing, in terms of timing of receiving the materials, all of that plays.
Oh, you got hung up there, John.
Yeah, you've gone static, John.
But I think John brought up a very important part. I don't know if he can hear me
into a
now.
decision as to whether you hear you, Sue. Can you guys hear me now or no?
yes.
Yeah, we can hear you
Now.
now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I was
Okay.
just going to say, I
Go
think
ahead,
the first things that were said was that the remote does not count towards school days. That's huge.
Yes, and so right now in the new flexibility, you have to have some form of in-person. So what would be acceptable, and again, I have more digesting of the document to go through. And literally multiple memos per day come out. So I want everybody to know, again, this isn't one memo every month that we receive and have to figure out.
Right.
Multiple communications a day that change. So we are doing everything in our power, and I'm no different than any other superintendent right now. We're all extremely frustrated and trying to work this through. This is the most vexing challenge any of us on the planet in terms of trying to open schools have had to face. And so the in-person opportunity is they will give us that flexibility, as I understand it, for 100% in-person model or a hybrid model, okay? But if we went full remote, if we said, you know what, there's no way, you know, I'm thinking of what Harry was saying, he's thinking hybrid maybe, but there's other people who say, well, it's less expensive, just do remote. There's the whole parents in the economy, childcare.
Right. Yeah, I understand it, Ken.
And,
Yeah, I agree.
you know that, Harry. I mean,
Yes.
there are so many implications to every decision we make, and so we have to make the right decision. There is.
John, can I ask one question? Because I'm leaning, I mean, I'm not against the 80%. I was leaning towards the hybrid, but in the 80%, if, let's just say, when we get the final numbers, instead of having 80%, we're only going to have 60% or 63% of the students. Will we still have to carry the same amount of new positions, or will we be able to subtract from those because we are only going to have 62%? Are we locked into these numbers?
Well, the first thing I want to say is the caveat is we have to prepare, because at some point, just like we may end up on remote, like you said, Harry, and I don't disagree with that at all. I think it's a very logical, common sense conclusion. If things flare up, that's going to be what we have to do, or hybrid from full. But we have to be prepared for 100%, because the remote option that parents have to keep their kids home during the 100% model,
Right.
that's temporary. And we're very clear with the parents the last bunch of presentations this week that that's a temporary option the state is providing, and they're counting that as attendance. Once that goes away, we have to be ready for 100% of the kids in school. So eventually, we are going to have all the kids in school, assuming the health data stays positive and things go well, and we can eventually get the kids back in. I don't think socially distancing issues, and I don't think cohorting, and I don't think masks go away in the 2021 school year. So no matter what, we're going to have to be prepared for 100%. So we have to understand that, and I know we don't want to over purchase immediately. I totally get that, but we have to understand that.
Okay.
John, I had a few questions. It's my understanding that in the survey, you're going to ask parents if they're going to send their children back, you know, send them back to school, or, you know, remote, and they're basically having to commit to what, a half year on how they're going to do that?
Well,
Is that?
Are you done? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, and then I just had a second question about how we order things, but yeah.
Okay, so to answer the first question, Susan. So again, sorry to interrupt. The remote option. So the survey is very simple. Yes or no. I'm coming to school. My child's coming to school or not. And parents can choose, if they have 3 children in 3 different schools, they could choose different depending on the circumstances of those children. So that's okay. They have to make a commitment, because you can, just on our conversation tonight, you can imagine the planning and the logistics, the spacing, the desk provision, all those things we have to know. So a parent could start at 100% and then say, you know what, I don't like this. I'm not comfortable. My child isn't comfortable. I choose to do remote learning. That's okay. Write us, notify us. You can go home and we know. That's much easier for us to plan for. But it's the parent who chooses remote learning now. We are asking for a commitment that, and at the end of the day, we have to educate the kids in person no matter what. We don't have a legal standing to say you can't come here. So what we're asking is a commitment so we can make a plan. And we ask for 2-week notice to give us written notification that there's a 2-week lag time. So we use the example at the meetings. Dr. Ruby explained this at our parent meetings. If it was September 17th and the parents say, you know what, it's been 2 weeks of school, things have gone well, I'm going to send little Johnny. Okay, notify the principal and let us know. And then that 2-week notice, for example, the first school day in October, you would start at the beginning of the month. That's how we would try to do this. So we have commitment and we have time to adjust. but we frankly don't have a legal standing to say it's going to be a semester, and if you choose remote learning, you can't come in until January 15th. Just wouldn't hold up. We have to educate our children. So it is everywhere we turn, Sue, there is no great answer. It is extremely difficult. And existing laws are in place that don't give you any wiggle room.
I do not envy your jobs. I imagine, I could imagine people coming in and out, and you're just, wave. I don't know. God bless you guys for doing it. My other question was either for Ken or maybe even for Jerry. So let's say we kind of feel like we need to get the orders placed, and we start to hear back, on the surveys. What if we order it and then the numbers somehow change? Let's say we do end up going to a hybrid and we only have to order, maybe not half the desks, but not as many. What are we obligated if they don't deliver them, but we've ordered them? What's our obligations as far as what we have to pay?
That's a good question. I can ask Jerry when I meet with him tomorrow.
Okay.
Typically, every supplier is different. Most of them would probably be pretty reasonable. Say we ordered 500 desks, we call back a week later and say, we only want 400. It's a supplier by supplier question.
Yeah.
That's how flexible they'll be.
Yeah. But I wonder too, with everyone looking for them right now, they don't need to be as kind perhaps as years past.
Well, here's the thing, with everybody looking for them, if we
They
say
could
to
sell
them, we
them
want to
elsewhere.
give up 100, they're not going to have a problem because they've
They'll
got
sell
somebody else to buy them.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it's important for the folks who don't typically watch Board of Ed meetings or any of these parent meetings, but might be tuning into the Board of Selectmen meeting tonight. We worked with, I talked with Father Chip over at St. Joe's to see if they had desks for us. Those have already been redistributed through their multi-age model where they bought tables last year. So they didn't have anything for us that we could readily access. In addition to that, he connected with the operations person for the Diocese of Connecticut to see what they had. And the Catholic high schools have the same social distancing guidelines as we do. So they've raided the storehouses from the diocese. And Mr. Checo, who has a lot of connections through his architectural business in New York, in the New York Diocese, and at least in the Westchester area, as I understand it, he has been all over looking for us to see if there's anything we can get in terms of purchasing used desks or a donation or renting used desks or whatever that might be in storage, and had absolutely no luck because all, to the supply chain issue, people are looking for used desks, they're looking for old desks, they're looking for brand new desks. We're all in the same position.
Right.
Yeah, Paul told me that, he's advising the Archdiocese of New York about their school closings and what to do. And they closed 20 schools in Westchester. And he said every bit of that equipment was swapped up in seconds
Yeah.
by other of their schools.
Yeah.
Any colleges that are not reopening?
Yeah, I think some colleges are doing full remote.
At least you can, high school sized desks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I know.
And
But what, 2 days from now, it's August 1st.
Correct.
Yep. So do we have any other questions or issues or concerns? Because I'll make a motion if we don't.
And you're gonna motion for the 80%, Steve? Is that what we talked
Yes.
about? Yep.
Yeah.
And we're just so you know, once this, you approve tonight, we are going to continue working with Jerry and refining our numbers and double checking in our operating budget to make sure all these are as fine-tuned and refined as can be. You can imagine it's a yeoman's task, and we're going to continue looking at everything to make sure we're not over purchasing, and that we've double check this against the operating budget to make sure we're not asking for anything that we might have already considered ordering. So I just want to assure people we'll be double checking.
Yeah.
all.
And I just want everybody to know, just the work you and I and Ken and Marcia have done over the last 2 weeks, it's dozens of hours just working on this spreadsheet and the supporting documentation. So we're very clear what we want, why we want it, and why we need it. And I want to say thank you very much for working very closely with us. It's very much appreciated.
And we thank you for your support and guidance and mentorship and the questions you've asked to help us vet and process our process. It's been
You sound like Governor Lamont, like last Monday, John.
Please don't say that.
John and I were on the same call with the governor, and mother, God, there was more. What did we call it, John?
I don't know if you said double talk or gobbledygook. I'm not sure what.
Oh, something. It was just went on and on and on.
Everybody's in a tough position. Everyone.
Yes, everybody's in a tough position.
Municipal
So-
leadership right now and being a parent are very difficult.
You know, I think it's very, very possible that we will go to the hybrid. What I am worried about, if we don't go to the hybrid, we're caught. And we're going to have 20 to 30% of our students we don't have seats for. And that scares me. And then this is, I think the supply chain is only going to get worse. I talked to Matt Knickerbocker. Their school is going to make a decision next week, towards the end of next week, what they're going to do. New Fairfield is doing it towards the end of next week. So every school district is right in that pulling the trigger on purchases. And I think the supply line is going to dry up. And that's why I'm not comfortable with the hybrid right now. I'm just not.
Right. Well, I
You
think
have
that's
kids
why,
sitting on the floor.
right. And I think too, when you go to make your motion, you know, if we make the motion for 80%, because based on survey that we've seen already,
Yep.
that we have to be able to say that if we do go 100%, we're going to have to
Pony up.
take care of that
Yep. And
because we don't have a choice. I mean,
No.
we're educating our students and we have to
That's
do it.
correct.
We have to do it the right way. I don't know.
We absolutely do. And I think the Board of Selectmen unanimously would support that, that if we go to 100% and the kids are back in and it's working, we're
Let's
just going to
hope.
have to,
Let's,
we're just going to have to support it. Okay, so having said
Look-
that, let me just make
Yeah.
this bigger so I can read it. I'd make a motion that the selectmen approve the special appropriation for the equipment, supplies, and preparations necessary for Brookfield schools to safely reopen and for operating during this coronavirus pandemic in an amount not to exceed, I'm going to say the entire amount of the 80%, but split into thirds. Are you guys comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay, let me just pull that up. So Ken, I have on my spreadsheet, not to exceed a total of $647,162.48 to be divided in 3 separate tranches, with the first tranche being the first 90 days of $304,194.10. Such funds to be appropriated from any first, John and you and I have discussed this a little bit. First, any savings the school has, if they have school trips that are canceled, sports that are canceled, things like that. And the remainder to be funded from our contingency fund on the town side. Let me go back to the agenda, the motion, because, okay.
I thought you said in words the 80% number, but then when you recited that, it was the 100% number. Did I miss something?
Was it, did I, oh, you know what? You're right. I'm sorry. I changed that number to $259,745.12. Sorry. Thank you, Marcia. I appreciate that. Now I got to read the rest of this because we have the, because we're going to be doing this without a town meeting. We have to make sure we do it correctly. So not to exceed that amount, having found that the approval of the special appropriation meets the executive order issued by the governor that the approval of the special appropriation without a town meeting is necessary to permit the orderly operation of the town, and that there is a need to act immediately during the pandemic emergency to avoid endangering public health and welfare. And that the board recommends to the Board of Finance that it make the same findings and approve the special appropriation. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, any further discussion?
Just one thing, Steve, can you just also state the time frame of the money the maximum, what that time frame is in months for the money that we're allowed to spend?
Yeah, I thought I did that, but
You
we're
may have,
supporting,
I didn't see here.
it's okay. So we're supporting the 80% in the spreadsheet, which is referenced in this discussion. And the first tranche, the total amount would be $647,162.48. And the first tranche, which would go from August to October 30th, 2020, would be an amount of $259,745.12. Does that meet your?
Yes, so it's up until we'll be paying up until October. This
Right.
money is going to be spent between the end of
Yeah.
August and October, whatever.
Right, right. And then we're obviously, as we've discussed, this is an iterative budget. And so we'll probably be looking at this again at our Board of Selectmen meeting on Monday. And I'm sure we're going to have, I think we're probably going to have a couple meetings in August and September. Because for the next tranche, we're going to have to start moving ahead on that in September. We'll just have, or October at the latest. Does that make sense?
Steve and Harry, on this subject, I want to just make sure it's clear for the public.
Yeah.
So in this first third, while there's a third of labor, because that's service, you know, and
Right.
a third of PPE we talked about, but it is the big chunk of desks and shields and things
Yes.
like that. That's
Yes.
yeah, got it. I want to make
Yes.
sure I understood that.
Yes, as listed in the spreadsheet. Yeah, we don't want people to think we're buying 1/3 of everything. We're not. The desks, we're going to have to buy 75, 20, 298 desks out of the 530 that are the full reopening would require. So some things are going down, but many are static.
Right. Still need the shields.
Yes, still needs the shields no matter what you do. Okay, we got a second. Any further questions, Sue or Harry?
I just want to go on record. I'm really, I think the state, and I'm only beating a dead horse, but they're putting us in a horrible position because not only because of the amount of money we're going to have to spend, but we may, I'm really hung up on if we go down having to pay, and having to pay these new employees, even though they're part-time employees, they're working full-time. We just have no idea how much this is going to cost us, and that bothers me. That has nothing to do with whether I'm going to vote yes or no. I just want to go on record by saying I'm
I think-
very reluctantly
It is.
voting yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
we're
think
in a terrible spot.
we're in a horrible place and no one wants to be here. But Harry, you're right. This is, the state is kind of pushing us into, well, it is what it is. You know,
Yeah,
we can-
I'm ready to move on.
And we have
So-
to keep everyone safe.
Yes, we have to keep everyone
It's all
safe.
about the safety.
And we have to educate the kids and we have to give them the equipment and supplies and the teachers and keep them all safe and give them the equipment they need. Nobody's happy about this, but I think this is the way to go. So having made the motion, I think everybody understands it. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Harry,
Yes,
He
did
he
you
raised
say
his
aye?
hand.
You raised your hand. Okay. I'm sorry, I was on the motion.
It was a soft eye, but it was an eye.
Okay, I see your
He's
hand. now.
not that enthusiastic, but
It
he'll
was
go. on it.
lowercase I.
Okay, great. And we'll move that on to the Board of Finance. John, if there are any updates, changes, things like that, I've asked Jerry to put together a lot of sporting documentation so we can give that to the Board of Finance because they may want to see it. So we'll
Sure.
work together on that tomorrow and Monday.
Yep,
that
and we
makes sense?
also have prepared potential, again, just all decision points of where there's areas we can look for savings. So we could also have that conversation with the Board of Finance as well.
Yeah.
We know
So
this.
It's an ongoing process.
Yeah, and it's very difficult for everyone, and we understand that.
Will you let us know how the surveys turn out as well, both teachers and families?
Sure. I mean, I just want to make it clear for everybody, it's a teacher letter. And so it's
Letter.
respond if you have a concern about coming back. So that's
Right. HR.
when
Yep.
we have an idea by kind of employee bargaining unit, we certainly can share that.
Okay.
That'll probably take a little bit longer. I think the
Mhm.
survey, if we can get it out tomorrow, I think the parents are anxious to share with us what their plans are. And again, so I think you said, Steve, that the Special Board of Finance meeting, it is going to be on Monday night. Is that what it looks like?
Monday at 6, I understand, is when Glenn's going to call it for.
So I asked our tech director to close the survey, at least initially, or we'll do at least a hard check-in at 4 o'clock on Monday to see where we're at. We can't close the
Great.
survey. We still need to follow up with people. But
Yeah.
because, again, it's individual responses per child we need. And we
Yeah, I
need-
think that would be great. The more information we can give the board, the better.
Yep.
And I appreciate.
John, I
all-
think it's Monday night, 6 p.m.
Okay,
Fine.
thank you.
Okay, so
And again,
is there?
thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you all Board of Ed, all the administrators, Marcia, Steve, Harry,
Rosa?
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
Okay,
thank you.
we'll see you guys soon.
All right, we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Take care.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye-bye.